There's no denying that Hooters, with its scantily clad waitresses and looks-based hiring practices, has always targeted a certain client base. It's hard to believe the chain's been doing it for more than 30 years, but according to USA Today, Hooters is in a slump.
Hooters employees have been turning to TikTok to literally show why a recent uniform change has upset them. Video after video has revealed that at some Hooters restaurants, the already quite short shorts have been reduced to what workers described as a pair of underwear.
I think we all had at some point in our life a conversation with our friends about some sort of business idea, something we say would love to do if we had all of the resources in the world, if we had all of the money in the world. But usually those ideas are nothing serious, they don't really lead into anything. It's just something we blurb out when we had maybe one or two too many to drink. But sometimes these ideas can actually turn into reality, and the reality can look very, very good with a lot of money and a lot of success, which is exactly what happened to 6 businessmen from America. One day they were sitting, having a chat and discussing how they would love to have some wings and beer served by half-naked women, and poof! This is how Hooters was founded. And yes, you heard me right, I said Hooters. This is how the concept of Hooters came to life and then was turned into a very successful business for many, many years with many, many branches. But over the last few years, it kind of seems to go downhill for them, which is exactly what we're going to focus on in today's video. Today, we're going to discuss why the concept of Hooters doesn't really seem to work anymore, and a little bit of controversy that has followed them throughout the years and something that people are a bit more aware of. There's also going to be some mention of sexual assault. So if this isn't really the type of content you like, or if this is something that's a bit more triggering to you, then I suggest you check out any of my other videos on my channel that are absolute, kind of all of them have to do with sexual assault. Guess we're living in a little bit of a messed up world. But yeah, there is definitely something else you can find on my channel that you can watch. Otherwise, stay tuned. But before we dive into it, if this is the type of content you enjoy, then please make sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and start a conversation in the comments. My name is Nika, and I do all sorts of commentary videos, mini documentaries, a little bit of true crime, and anything that I find somewhat interesting. So if that sounds good to you, then I hope to see you at the end of the video where we can chat a little bit more. So as mentioned before, Hooters was founded by 6 businessmen. Neither of them had any sort of prior experience in the restaurant business at all, but they always knew what type of environment they wanted to create. And it was always supposed to be an environment where you can go with the bros, hanging out, having some manly finger food, getting some beer served by beautiful women. So with that being said, it's not a secret that Hooters is always trying to target a very specific audience, if you know what I mean, and they've been doing so since over 30 years. So, and according to the internet, they have roughly 420 restaurants at the moment, mainly in America, but they do have some international as well. Now, if the business has been going well for that long, why isn't it going so well for them anymore? And I think the answer to the why, is pretty clear. It is because society has changed. Back in the day, it was much more acceptable for women to be objectified, which this is not the case anymore. Our society is much more aware and less accepting of that type of behavior. So the concept hasn't aged too well because people find it quite offensive and uncomfortable to go to Hooters now. And when I say people, I don't mean women. I mean like people in general. It's just not a thing anymore. Now, one thing I will mention right now, but it will come up later in the video as well, because it will be quite a big focus of this video, is Hooters is still trying to sell themselves as a family-friendly restaurant. But actually, the whole purpose of Hooters is to go there to get served by half-naked sexy women. So I'm going to make comparisons between Hooters and a strip club, and at the end, you'll agree with me. I'm pretty sure at the end you'll be like, damn, maybe Hooters is actually a strip club, kinda like boring version of a strip club, but you'll see. Now, technically, they can do whatever the heck they want, even though the whole concept is built on sexism and sexualization of women. However, the problem occurs only when they don't protect their staff against sexual harassment and assault, only because they live in denial. While strip clubs and the women who work in them know exactly what they're selling, Hooters continues to hide behind the image of a family-friendly restaurant. In their job descriptions for Hooters girls, they just require that you be fit and glamorous and entertain guests in a fun way, and they also make it a point to say that they're not selling sex, they're only selling wings. And if you happen to read into revealing outfits or how the women are trained to sit and flirt with you, that's on you, my friends. Which to me, all it says is that they're really trying to gaslight their staff as well as the customers really, really hard. Because in my opinion, if it sounds like a duck, walks like a duck, it is a duck. And the fact that you have to make it a point to say that they're not selling sex is all I have to know. In 2015, the faculty from the University of Tennessee Psychology Department set out to find what kind of consequences working in this environment had on waitresses' mental health. And the findings were pretty disturbing. All the waitresses interviewed suffered from some degree of depression, anxiety, anger, and confusion. They also reported feeling demeaned and mistreated on a regular basis, and you will shortly understand why. In the past, the company has been sued multiple times by men who claimed they were discriminated and not hired because of their gender. All of the lawsuits have been settled, and I don't know exactly what the outcome was, but Hooters came back with some questionable arguments that I want to discuss. Although they're still not forced to hire men, they have opened a few branches where they also hire men. Now, the arguments from Hooters why they're not hiring men were really simple. They said they're not actually hiring waitresses, they're hiring entertainers. Being hot and having a set of tits was a requirement for the job because it wasn't as much as they were interviewing the girls. The girls were auditioning. So you see the contradiction in this whole thing, right? So first, you're saying you're a family-friendly restaurant, then you feel the need to make it a point that you're not selling sex but you're selling wings, and then in the same breath you're not hiring men to be waiters because you're not actually hiring waitresses, you're hiring entertainers, and it's not an interview, it's an audition. So quite a lot of controversy on that part, but this all gets worse because in 2005 the website A Smoking Gun published the Employees Manual for Hooters. So basically, if you wanted to work at Hooters, you have to sign a statement in which you acknowledge that you work in an environment in which joking based on female sex appeal is a commonplace. So you have to agree to be okay with sexually charged jokes against you in your place of work. You have to sign a statement to basically say, if all of you losers want to have a joke about me and my tits, I'm gonna be like absolutely fine with that. Which is crazy, like this is supposed to be a restaurant. In terms of clothing, Hooters is going for the all-American cheerleader, surfer, girl next door type of look. And the girls were required to wear makeup, which I think is pretty normal for many establishments, so nothing crazy about that in my opinion. But how Hooters is enforcing the dress code, again, reminds me of what I hear about working in a strip club. So according to some ex-staff members, the managers would meet with all of the girls who were about to start their shift and checked that the hair was done, makeup was done, shirts and shorts had no stains, that the ties had no rips in them, and shoes were clean and white. I read an article in a magazine where a former staff member said something very powerful and something that really stood out to me. And she basically said that working at Hooters is a job based on sexual assault and harassment. You being paid to be sexually harassed and objectified, and everyone is aware. And this stood really out to me again because Hooters is trying to sell themselves as a family-friendly restaurant, but at the same time, any business that makes you sign a statement where you basically have to agree to sexually charged jokes against you, as well as you being called an entertainer rather than an actual waitress, is aware of what they're doing. So there is an instance that happened a couple of years ago, and it's just one example out of many, where a 19-year-old girl took a job at a Hooters in Philadelphia, and pretty much immediately after she started, she experienced sexual harassment and mistreatment. So as soon as she started, one of the kitchen worker, I guess, kind of took liking to her, and he started to sexually harass her. Like literally, he would make obscene jokes about her, sexually charged jokes about her and her body and how she looks, and obviously that made her extremely uncomfortable. So she did report this to the managers, who essentially just ignored her concerns. They were basically like brushing it off, saying they're gonna speak to him, but of course they didn't take it too serious. And of course, eventually it did escalate. So one day when she went to the back to get something, that same kitchen worker cornered her into a corner and tried to throw himself on her, and she could barely escape. She did manage, however, to go before anything worse even happened, and she left her job because she's traumatized. Like somebody just literally almost forced himself on her. So she left the place. Then the next day she called in to speak to the managers about what happened, and they were more concerned about her leaving her job while she was still clocked in than what actually happened to her. And I'm not sure, I think she might have gotten fired for that as well, was pretty much close to getting fired. When, excuse me, are you all right? Like, are you all right in the head? Because sexual harassment is illegal, okay? You are not to accept, you don't have to accept sexual harassment, and you shouldn't accept sexual harassment. So for your place of work to be concerned with your work rather than your well-being when somebody literally just almost force themselves onto you is absolutely unacceptable. So wherever you are in the world, whatever type of job you have, sexual harassment, sexually charged jokes against you, none of that shit is okay. None of that is okay. Please report this to someone. If a manager is not taking you serious, report it to the police. Try to find a different job. I know sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes we don't have many options. But please don't let those people get away with their shit, okay? You definitely don't deserve it. Whoever you are in the world, if you feel like I'm speaking to you, please do something. According to the Business Insider, a meta-analysis from Pornhub revealed that when it came to the searches of people between 18 and 24, they were the least likely to be interested in boobs content. People who are interested in that type of content are usually between the age of 55 and 64, which is not exactly the target audience for Hooters. So of course, this is quite a big problem for them. And you know, the younger people, they're just not interested in tits anymore, and they're not impressed by girls with low-cut shirts either. And you know, if we are real, Gen Z is kind of controlling the consumer market right now. So if they don't want to see tits and you are selling tits, you're kind of out of business. So to summarize this all in one or two sentences, the concept of Hooters is outdated and public opinion has changed and matured. So people would much rather go to a normal restaurant if they want to have some wings, or they would rather choose an actual family-friendly restaurant, or if they want to see a pair of tits, they would actually go to a strip club. So Hooters is kind of out of place, and the food isn't very nice again. So because this isn't a selling point, it's kind of like just going down. One thing I didn't get into in this video is all of the protesting that happened in 2010 in the UK, which is where I'm living right now. So basically Hooters came here. They wanted to open a bunch of restaurants and the people were not having it. They were not having it to the point that Hooters only opened one restaurant in London, which as far as I'm aware is still open. Yeah, again, that was pretty much it. If you have any comments, let me know. If you have any thoughts, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, like my video, turn on notifications, and I hope I see you in my next one.